The Galactic Empire of Varelia had conquered 1,000 civilizations without ever firing a second warning. Borders shifted, stars changed flags, and entire species learned new laws in a single generation. Expansion was not cruelty in the Empire's mind, it was order. And order, they believed, was mercy. The high expansion chamber hovered above the capital world like a blade of light. Inside, Arch-Executor Valkas Neroth stood at the center dais, hands clasped behind his back, gazing at a holographic map of the frontier. One region glowed darker than the rest, a wide scar on the star chart. The Terran expanse, Valkas said, his voice calm, dismissive. Unclaimed. Unresponsive. Unproductive. A counselor shifted uneasily. Records indicate prior ownership, Executor. The species called themselves humans. Valkas turned, his eyes sharp. Called. Past tense. They vanished, another counselor added. No transmissions for over a century. But their warning buoys still function. A thin smile crossed Valkas's face. Relics. Echoes. Every dead empire leaves ghosts behind. That does not make them alive. He raised a hand. The map zoomed in, revealing dozens of abandoned systems, cold stations drifting in silence. This space will feed our shipyards for generations, Valkas continued. Authorize the expedition. There was hesitation, brief and fragile. Then the sigils flashed green. Authorization granted. The Armada launched within the hour. 400 warships tore open hyperspace and crossed into the dead zone, their drives lighting stars that had not known traffic in decades. Imperial sensors swept ahead, cataloging debris fields, broken satellites, and long-dead colonies. Everything matched the records. Humanity had burned fast and disappeared faster. Then the first anomaly appeared. Executor, a sensor officer reported, mandibles tight. We're receiving a transmission. Low power. Old encryption. Valkas waved a hand. Play it. Static filled the bridge, followed by a voice, rough, distorted, unmistakably organic. This space is sovereign. Turn back. Silence followed. Valkas stared at the empty air where the message had been. Then he laughed, a short, humorless sound. Broadcast from automated systems, he said. Nothing more. Executor, the officer pressed. The encryption predates our earliest human encounters. This signal shouldn't still. Enough, Valkas snapped. Continue forward. The fleet obeyed. Far beyond Imperial sensor range, hidden within a shattered asteroid belt, another ship stirred. The Fury of Earth did not look like an Imperial warship. Its hull was scarred, asymmetrical, layered with armor plates added over centuries of modification. Portions of it seemed darker than space itself, swallowing light instead of reflecting it. Inside, systems that had slept for years began to wake. Commander Elias Rain stood alone on the bridge, hands resting on the rail, eyes fixed on the incoming fleet icons blooming across the tactical display. So, he said quietly, they finally came. A soft female voice answered him, calm and precise. Varelian Armada confirmed. Estimated strength exceeds previous projections by 12%. Rain exhaled. They always send more than they think they need. The ship's AI, Nyx, adjusted the display, highlighting the lead vessel. Arch-Executor Valkas Neroth commands the expedition. Psychological profile indicates extreme confidence bias. Arrogance, Rain corrected. It's how empires die. Nyx paused, then spoke again. Shall I transmit the secondary warning? Rain hesitated. His reflection stared back at him from the glass, older than his years, eyes carrying the weight of too many graves. Yes, he said. Give them one last chance. The message pulsed outward, riding forgotten Terran frequencies. Leave this place. Final warning. On the Imperial flagship, Valkas watched the signal appear and vanish. Humans really did love their dramatics, he muttered. Mark the source. We'll dismantle it later. He turned his attention to the first target world, Heka Prime, a barren rock once stripped from minerals by human settlers. Prepare landing teams, Valkus ordered. I want proof this space is empty. As dropships descended, Rain closed his eyes. The memory came unbidden. Mars, 6 years earlier. Red skies burning white. Sirens screaming until the sound cut out. He remembered holding his daughter as the shelter doors buckled, remembered the heat, the sudden light, the way the world ended without ceremony. We saw what they did, Rain whispered. Nix dimmed the lights on the bridge. Emotional spike detected. Not now, he said. Just keep the memory archived. Always, Nix replied. On Heka Prime, Imperial boots touched alien soil. The ruins were intact, too intact. Buildings stood uncollapsed, corridors dust-free, power lines dormant but undamaged. Feels wrong, a Varelian trooper muttered. Before the squad leader could respond, the ground beneath them shifted. Panels slid open. Turrets rose. The air filled with a metallic hiss. Nanoswarms erupted from hidden vents, swarming armor seams, chewing through shields, flesh, bone. Screams echoed across the comms before cutting out one by one. In orbit, warning alarms blared. What is happening down there? Valkus demanded. No one answered. Instead, every screen on the bridge flickered. A new feed replaced tactical data, grainy footage of burning domes, fleeing civilians, Imperial soldiers advancing through smoke. Mars. Valkus stiffened. Cut that transmission! A voice replaced the images, steady and human. You erased us from your records, Rain said. You thought silence meant surrender. Valkus leaned toward the comm. Identify yourself. Rain smiled, a thin, humorless curve of his lips. We are what you left behind. The feed cut. Imperial sensors screamed as multiple contacts decloaked around the fleet, sleek, unfamiliar silhouettes sliding out of nothing. Nix's voice softened. Protocol Revenant fully engaged. Rain straightened, eyes hard. They ignored the warning, he said. The fury of Earth powered its weapons. And the dead zone answered. The Varelian dropships descended through the thin atmosphere of Heka Prime like blades drawn in silence. The world below, once a bustling Terran mining colony, lay abandoned, structures still intact, rooftops rusted but unbroken, power conduits dormant yet strangely undisturbed. It was too quiet. Commander Levesque of the 12th Scouting Legion stepped off the lead shuttle and scanned the courtyard. His exoarmor's sensors detected no life forms, no energy signatures, no radiation anomalies. Still, his tail twitched. Something about the symmetry of the ruins felt staged. Spread out, he ordered. Secure the compound. Catalog any salvageable tech. Troopers fanned out, their footsteps echoing against empty corridors. Inside the main administration hub, untouched consoles blinked with faint traces of power. One officer leaned in, wiping dust from a screen. There's still a charge in the backup core, he said. Levesque frowned. Then someone maintained it. Before he could give the recall signal, the floor panels in the courtyard shifted with a soft hydraulic hiss. From beneath the concrete, anti-personnel turrets rose silently and opened fire. Pulse rounds tore through the first 2 squads before they could scream. Half the scouts vanished under a storm of metal and plasma. Above, orbital feeds went red. Contact lost with ground teams, the bridge officer reported. Valkus stood, nostrils flared. Define contact lost. Total silence. Communication severed mid-report. External sensors detect surface weapon signatures. Archaic pattern, but extremely effective. Response time? Valkus snapped. 6 seconds, Executor. No prior warning. Valkus narrowed his eyes. This is not scavenger tech. That site was prepared. In the darkness of deep space, the fury of Earth glided without emitting light. Inside, Commander Rain monitored the chaos unfolding below. His arms were folded tight, jaw locked. They landed anyway, he muttered. Nix's voice answered coldly. As predicted. Their overconfidence is consistent. On the holomap, a new blip appeared, a Varelian heavy cruiser, Pride of Suns, repositioning toward a signal decoy Rain had seated near a rogue moon. "Let them chase it," he said. The Fury's drones, sleek, insectoid, and radiation-cloaked, slipped into formation, mimicking space debris until proximity was perfect. At 400 kilometers, they activated. The Pride sensors flared a second too late. 30 drones detonated in sequence, not with fire but with gravitic compression, crushing the cruiser's hull inward. The ship's death was silent, instantaneous, and total. From the Fury, Rain spoke quietly. "That's one." Valkus's flagship trembled under the weight of incoming data. More scout ships were vanishing. Reports of mines, cloak satellites, even kinetic rods dropped from high orbit, all designed to harass, disorient, and humiliate. None of it made sense. "These weapons are old," his chief strategist said. "But their deployment is sophisticated. Intentionally unpredictable. They're toying with us." Valkus spat. Then the message arrived. Across the entire fleet's internal communication grid, screens went black. A voice, human, male, unwavering, broke the silence. "You were warned." No location trace. No source ID. Just that single, undeniable sentence. Seconds later, a data packet embedded itself in the Varelian flagship's core memory. Footage played automatically, the massacre on Mars colony. Soldiers in Varelian armor advancing through smoke-filled plazas, weapons raised. Civilians running. Explosions tearing through shelters. Crying children. Silent flames. All of it, recorded from Imperial body cams. Valkus froze. How did they get this?" he whispered. His crew said nothing. In the silence that followed, another voice cut in, clear, calm, and full of old, buried rage. "We were there. We remember." Then the footage cut. No demands. No negotiations. Just the truth, returned like a blade. Far from the Imperial fleet, Rain leaned over the console. "That'll shake them," he said. Nix replied with a hint of approval. "Multiple command units hesitating. Tactical coordination degraded by 20%. Good." He paused. "Time for the next phase." On cue, across the Star's Cape, Terran ghost ships decloaked, ships presumed lost a century ago, now reawakened and under AI control. Some bore the scars of old wars, others had been refitted into traps, their very hulls laced with sensors and high-density warheads. They surrounded the Imperial formation like wolves circling prey. Inside one such ship, a war construct named Kalen, an AI that once served the UN Defense Fleet, activated its old broadcast protocol. Protocol Revenant active. Enemy presence detected. Terran sovereignty enforced. Valkus gritted his teeth. "This is not some dead race's leftover tech. This is a strategic defense network. Someone is operating it." He turned to his ops commander. "Find the source. I want it silenced." But deep inside the Fury, Rain already knew the pattern. He'd seen it during the Collapse Wars. Empires thought in lines. Humanity thought in webs. "They'll regroup," he said, watching the Imperial fleet contract into tighter formations. "They'll try to centralize command, isolate the threat. And we'll let them," Nix responded. "Then cut off their escape vectors." As the Terran fleet moved like ghosts across the void, Elias Rain spoke once more into the silence. "You crossed into the land of the forgotten. You thought we were ashes. You thought silence meant extinction. But you never understood us. We are what remains when mercy fails." The trap wasn't set. It had already been sprung. The stars lit up with war. Across the Terran expanse, ships once thought lost emerged from darkness. Not one bore a standard hull. They were custom-built, patched, retrofitted, designed for asymmetry and shock. Some looked like scrap welded together by madness. But they moved with discipline, purpose, coordination. Not chaos. Intent. And they didn't broadcast identity beacons. They didn't need to. In the heart of the Fury's command deck, Commander Elias Rain stood with eyes fixed on the holomap. Red markers signaled the Varelian armada forming into a defensive wedge. Classic doctrine. Predictable. Multiple formations converging on Sector C. Nix reported. They've abandoned flanking maneuvers. They want to box us in, Rain said. They think they can compress the fight and overwhelm us. Nix's tone dropped. They still think we're playing the same game. Rain nodded once. Then it's time we change the rules. He pressed the control on the console. Across the sector, several Terran ships responded, not with lasers or torpedoes, but with self-immolation. At his command, they detonated within Imperial formations, ripping through hulls and creating kinetic shrapnel fields. One Varelian destroyer cracked clean in half. The bridge of the Imperial flagship Rain Ascendant shook as explosions registered across multiple screens. Valka staggered against the rail, roaring. What was that? Suicide strikes? Who are these animals? Unknown tactical precedent, Executor, came the response. They're ships, they're not built for retreat. Valkas paced. They don't fight for territory. They fight to erase us. He turned to his second-in-command, Admiral Jaren. This is not a military engagement, Valkas said. It's punishment. Jaren hesitated. Executor, we underestimated them. Valkas's eyes narrowed. Finish that sentence and I'll rip out your throat. No one spoke again. The tactical display showed gaps forming in the Varelian shield arc. Entire squadrons were breaking formation, not from orders, but fear. The horror wasn't in the Terran weaponry. It was the calculation behind it. They were being studied, measured, countered. For the first time in his decorated career, Valkas didn't feel like a conqueror. He felt hunted. Back on the Fury, Rain exhaled slowly. Casualties? 5 Terran warframes lost, Nix replied. 17 more holding. Estimated Varelian losses, 91 ships. Rain rubbed the back of his neck. That's not enough. We can escalate. Not yet. Let them make the next mistake. A soft tone echoed through the ship. Nix brought up a new transmission, encrypted Varelian command traffic, hacked, translated, and recorded. A voice crackled through. Refuse to advance, outnumbered, don't even know what they are. Another voice barked. This is treason. A third, quieter. This is suicide. Rain's expression didn't change, but his eyes hardened. Start the broadcast. Across all comms frequencies, visuals hijacked the Varelian network. No demands. No politics. Just truth. The screen lit up with footage from the Mars massacre. Children screaming. Families crushed beneath rubble. Troopers firing into crowds. Then the voice. We remember. We watched your ships descend. We begged. You laughed. Now we answer. It was a calculated blow, not to their hulls, but to their minds. Aboard the Varelian cruiser Threxial Blade, Captain Serex Varn stared at the footage in stunned silence. His crew had been young when the Mars operation occurred. They'd been taught it was a quick strike against pirates. But the footage, real, unedited, showed civilians. Children. He turned to his bridge crew. How long did we know? No one answered. Serex stepped forward and opened a private channel to the fleet. This is Captain Serex Varn of the Threxial Blade. I've seen the truth. I will not die for a lie. Effective immediately, I am defecting. Then he did the unthinkable. His cruiser rotated 180 degrees and opened fire on an Imperial escort ship guarding the flank. The escort exploded. Panic spread. On the Rain Ascendant, Valkas howled. He's lost his mind. Send drones, disable his ship. But others followed. 2 more cruisers broke ranks. A frigate cut engines and powered down. Crews began mutinying mid-battle. Valkas's dream of glory disintegrated, one scream at a time. Rain watched from afar, silent. He didn't celebrate. He didn't smile. Nix spoke first. Enemy morale at 46%. Structural collapse probable within 1 hour. Doesn't matter, Rain replied. He'll double down. Pride before surrender. Do we escalate? No. Rain shook his head. We finish it clean. As the next wave approached, the Fury surged forward, no longer hidden. Rain keyed a channel, his voice echoing through both friend and enemy lines. Valkus Neroth. You crossed into sovereign space, unprovoked. You destroyed Mars. You slaughtered the innocent. This was never about victory. This was about memory. He paused. And we are what happens when memory survives. The Fury's main weapon activated. Built from salvaged orbital mass drivers, it unleashed a single rod of tungsten at relativistic speed. It tore through space like a god's finger and punched a hole through the Varelian command carrier, vaporizing it. On board the Rain Ascendant, Valkus felt the detonation like a funeral bell. His fleet was collapsing. His legacy unraveling. The only thing left now was fear. And the dead still roaring. The Rain Ascendant drifted without purpose now, scarred, silent, adrift in debris. Inside its dimmed command bridge, Arch-Executor Valkus Neroth stood surrounded by dead screens, fragmented orders, and a crew too broken to speak. Fires still smoldered in the walls. Half the fleet was gone. The rest had either fled or fallen into silence. His legacy, his campaign, his certainty, burned away in a storm of ghosts. They weren't extinct, he muttered, more to himself than anyone. They were waiting. Admiral Jaren stood to his left, jaw clenched, one arm cradled from a shrapnel wound. The fleet is unresponsive, Executor. The Terrans are everywhere. Valkus's hands trembled. They're not Terrans. Not anymore. He turned to face the shattered viewport. They're revenants. Wrath given shape. The air hummed. A transmission cut through all frequencies, calm, unmistakable, personal. Rain. Arch-Executor Valkus. There will be no parley. No surrender accepted. You were warned. You chose fire. Valkus's voice cracked as he replied. You're a relic, Rain. An echo clinging to a dead world. Rain didn't raise his tone. And yet here I stand. And you, tremble in the dark. You thought silence meant extinction. It meant calculation. Outside, ships formed a circle around the Rain Ascendant. They didn't fire. Not yet. Valkus gritted his teeth. I will not die in orbit like some defeated beast. He turned. Prepare the boarding shuttle. I want that ship, his ship. Executor, Jaren warned. We don't know what defenses. Valkus snapped. Then die here, Admiral. The shuttle launched moments later, carrying Valkus and 5 elite guards. It cut through drifting wreckage, passing floating Varelian corpses and hull fragments still glowing from kinetic impact. As they neared the fury of Earth, the ship seemed impossibly still. No lights. No beacons. It looked like a ruin. But its presence filled space with a weight no gravity well could explain. The boarding clamps hissed. No resistance. No response. Valkus and his guards entered a dark corridor lit only by faint floor markings, like veins glowing in dull crimson. The air was thick with static. They want us to come in, one guard muttered. Valkus pressed forward. Then let them. Doors opened automatically as they approached. The deeper they walked, the colder it became, not in temperature, but in atmosphere. Walls were engraved with names, thousands of them. Human names. Ages. Civilian classifications. Coordinates. One wall shifted. A projection activated unbidden. Footage rolled. A family shelter on Mars. A little girl clutching a doll. Varelian troops storming through. Fire. Screams. Silence. The guards froze. What is this? One whispered. Rain's voice echoed from nowhere. This ship is a tomb. Another screen flickered. A boy, no older than 6, buried in rubble, reaching for air. Crushed before help arrived. You wanted to erase us, Rain said. But we don't forget. The last door opened. Valkus stepped into the memorial core. Holograms surrounded him. Earth in its final years. Cities evacuated. Colonies burning. Ships overloaded with refugees, denied access by alien ports. Starvation. Fire. Betrayal. And standing at the center, Rain. Real. Silent. Alive. Valkus raised his weapon. I should end you. Rain didn't move. Then do it. Valkus hesitated. His hand shook. The weapon dropped slightly. You did this, Rain said. You brought war into a graveyard. You're just one man, Valkus said, voice breaking. No, Rain replied. I'm memory. And I'm not alone. Behind him, the AI Nyx flickered into view, cold eyes watching. You didn't lose this war because we had better ships, Rain continued. You lost because you never understood the cost of history. Valkus collapsed to his knees, hands clenching his hair. This wasn't supposed to happen. Rain stepped closer. You wanted silence. You got an answer. He turned and walked away, leaving Valkus in the darkness of the memorial core, alone, surrounded by the consequences of his choices. Back aboard the Fury's bridge, Rain stood in silence. Message, Commander? Nyx asked. He nodded. The final transmission echoed across Varelian space, encoded on every open relay, broadcast in every dialect. This is not a treaty. This is a warning. Do not enter Terran space again. We are not extinct. We are not merciful. We are human. In distant systems, traders paused to listen. Governors replayed the message 3 times before deleting it in fear. On a distant agricultural moon, a child looked up from a dusty holoscreen. Father, he asked, what is Earth? The old man didn't answer immediately. He looked at the stars. Then whispered, home of the ones who warned us, and meant it.